There is a chance here that if FiveShards wins this game, he might be able to squeeze into the top 8 depending on ties. Um, Likely not, but he is in that region where if he wins, he will be 6-2. Don't think it quite gets there though. I think the highest he can place is probably 14th.
But still, that's top 16.
It is. He is on the cusp of the top 16. That's true.
One day we might grow enough to so that we will have a top 16 instead of a top 8.
I mean, we are looking at CoachFliperon, who has thrown away lethal twice and is the worst Hex player in Hex.
That's true. That's true.
And with that, I'm done saying anything. I just needed to remind everyone how terrible at this game.
So Reese goes underground. That's what he does. And Reese goes underground.
Will they meet? Will they meet in the center?
Potentially not a Reese though. That could be a Mega Hulk. I don't know what Kuzimo is running, but
what if they meet in the center? Do they say hi, or do they just pass each other?
They just bump heads and they merge into one Reese that creates 2 random robots a turn that attack both players. That's the truth. It's actual.
They go rogue like Slaughter Gear.
Okay, so judging by the fact that Kuzimo is now on 3 resources and there have been no plays, I'm going to go out on a limb and say probably isn't playing Dwarf Aggro. Still could be wrong on that, but likely that tunnel is also a Reese.
So head bumping will happen.
Confirmed. It's a peak. Was not expecting a peak here. Now, what do you prefer, Aki? Do you prefer in this situation, in this kind of deck, running a wit or a peak?
Ooh. I would probably prefer the peak just because Mono Sapphire, the ability to reach into more cards and get exactly what you need is so much more valuable than, especially with a champion like Bertram. Yes, more worker bots are cool. More worker bots are great, especially with a Reese out. But you don't need all. One charge often does not make or break that.
That's true. That's true. I mean, I guess if you were running Wyatt, it would be a different story. Ancestors Chosen comes down. Ancestors Chosen, the greatest 1-drop in the world.
So great, banned in escalator format.
Indeed, indeed. Buccaneer comes down. I mean, he's just trying to prevent him. Ooh. That's an early counter magic there.
His 1-drop's so good. Early counter magic, perhaps an extra counter magic, one he's willing to use up.
Potentially, yeah, but still very early. Having said that, making Buccaneers 5 cost isn't the worst thing in the entire world.
That is true.
Almost certainly a Reese at this point. What with the Ancestors Chosen and being at 3 counters currently. Be very strange if it was anything else. Might see an Excavation Hulk pop up next turn. Okay, so this is a little bit awkward, honestly.
That may have just paid off because off the top, an Ancestral Spectre, 2/2 for 1, draws him a card.
That was a very powerful play that leaves 3 resources open. Judging by the counter magic on Buccaneer, he almost certainly has another one in hand. I can't imagine him not having another counter magic here.
Especially to protect that Reese. Or to stop this Reese.
There it is.
And with no verdict, no counter magic. Looks like this will be a one-sided head bumping.
He does have the time ripple, which will potentially help him out here. Opponent is only on 4, and a time ripple, if resolved, will stop that Reese from being around for a little while. But there's still a 2/2 flyer on the board, and more going into the deck. So I guess he's waiting for the charge power. Or not. Just throws it straight at that. It might as well, I suppose. Are we going to see another interrupt here? We've seen 2 so far from Kuzimo.
A peek, and this is where this matters. He gets to look at his top 4 cards, and if he sees a verdict, he'll take it. But if there isn't, he'll just take another card he probably will need in the near future. Power.
Does pick up a card. Is it the verdict, though? It is! So that means he gets the charge power robot and the end of turn robot. Plus he can swing here with a 2/2 and a 4/4 without any fear of losing any of his guys. That was ridiculous.
So Reese goes rogue like Slaughter Gear, convinces Slaughter Gear to come over onto his side. That seems to be the result of the Reese head bumping.
Slaughtergear is probably one of the strongest possible pickups from the Mono Sapphire specifically version of this deck, because it just works so well with what you're trying to do here. Obviously, a thing that Sapphire does is hold up resources at the end of turn in order to, you know, interrupt things and use those peaks. Being able to use those resources, transforming your useless robots into 5/5 Warhogs with Crush, if you don't need to interrupt anything even, is certainly a useful thing indeed. Also, it's just huge. Very hard to deal with a 5/6. I mean, other than an actual Tectonic Mega Hulk, I can't really imagine a better thing to get off of a Reese early on.
So a fairly average rock elemental coming out. He is double inspired. If it ever hits an opponent, that's some card draw.
Reese goes back, but I mean the damage is done really. That's a pretty big dude.
And with no cards in hand, if Kuzimo has a shard or any way to, he'll just be replayed, and it's almost the same.
He doesn't even necessarily need to. He's got 3 charges and a slaughter gear. He can be completely happy here, creating a worker bot and turning that into a 5/5 Warhawk. Like, he could save the charge power for the Reese, but really, like, there isn't much in this game that Reese can create that's better than a Warhawk.
5/5 Crush is bigger than all of Coach's troops. And all of Coach's troops need to start blocking this. He's at 13 health. Oh, and a mastery of time. FlipeRon has no recourse. He's got no cards in hand. He's at the mercy with his 2 blockers. He takes 2 in the air for sure from the Ancestral Spectre.
Yeah, he's got to be chomping with that Mentalist here, really. That was interesting. I mean, I think personally keeping that around just in case he could get 2 cards from it might have been the better plan there. But keeping the Mentalist alive, I guess it does kind of make sense if he is running those as a Fates. Another Mastery of Time. Well, sometimes you get triple masteried. well, triple turned, should I say, not triple masteried. Yep, that was pretty ridiculous. And a Buccaneer just to make sure that the damage goes through.
Sometimes you don't need any time bugs to be the master of time. And people want the spoiler. We've got 3 spoilers already. We need a 4th.
I don't think so. I don't think they really want the 4th.
You're right. They want a 5th and a 6th and a 7th. What do we? We're just gonna keep going and be the entire set. Wouldn't want that, would we? Yeah, we kind of would.
It's a good point, Jacksomilian. Very good point. I do find spoilers tend to spoil things.
It's like counter magic, but costs 1 more. And instead of their Buccaneers costing +2, they'll have 2 eggs in their deck. 2 Spiderling eggs.
If these guys keep asking for more, I'm going to be forced to sell them all to some Undertakers. And they can run away to London and join a weird pickpocketing gang run by an old man.
You'll want your pain and suffering if that happens. So it looks like we'll get right into game 2.
Okay, that is a lot of save decks right there. Magical letters and symbols gracing the names, and I have no idea what they mean. Come on, Tetzot, I believe in you.
Tetzot needs to stop throwing fatal damage.
It's an interesting hand.
It's not bad. Needs 1 shard at some point in this game.
But maybe this hand is a little bit weak to Sapphire in particular. Eldritch Dreamers do not like Buccaneers.
A lot of things don't like Buccaneers, to be fair.
It always hurts more when it's a Dreamer, though. When you have these troops with on-hit effects, you just... It stings when you don't even get to attack with them once.
You ask the Mono Sapphire player, pretty please, and they say, no.
That's not bad. That gives Fliperon a strong turn 2 here, which he didn't previously have. There is the 4th shard as well, so this is basically a perfect curve out. Let's see if he can build off of it. Still the possibility that his opponent is going to tunnel a Reese next turn, but so far so good.
Last time he was not able to get rid of that not able to... Actually, I forgot what happened last game. He tried to kill the...
Strong turn 3 as well. Top decking like a pro, Fliperon.
Eldritch Dreamers to draw 2 cards are pretty good. And this is unverdictable.
Now this next turn might be pretty sad for Coach if he does have a counter magic. No counter magic. Also no 3rd shard.
He might get that. If he might get that Reese in 3 turns. But if the Peron can get a couple of these Dreamers out, do some damage, get that Buccaneer out, have lots of options, this could be a very different game from last time.
Yeah, I mean, and also without the third resource, there's no option to Buccaneer. He goes for the Buccaneer. That's interesting.
That's
I mean,
also
this seemed
fair.
like a window of this seemed like a window of opportunity to get the Dreamer down there, and you can obviously Buccaneer later.
It's also probably going. You're stuck at 2. You might have more 2-drops to play to take advantage of that and get out of your stuck at 2 state. This is a bounce the Mirror Knight, remove that possibility of Mirror Knight getting cards to get Kuzimo out of the situation. So I think that's kind of what that play is. And indeed, there was a storm cloud to follow that up, and the shard. So that is lots of potential cards.
Another chosen. Wow. So this is a little bit tricky. I mean, you've got a Buccaneer that will draw on hit. You can't really let your opponent start getting that kind of card advantage. Again, this Dreamer's safe, at least from interrupts.
Every card is precious.
Every card is precious. So the Buccaneer will slide on through. No chumps or anything there. Understandable, really, considering the troops he actually has. There's a Reese of his own. Now, this is a tough decision. Decision? This is a tough decision. Does he Dreamer or Reese here? Looks like he's going for the Dreamer.
He gets a slightly above average 4/4 Rock Elemental.
That is pretty good. Going to be hard, really, to deal with all of these, regardless of what Kuzimo has here. There are still going to be probably at least 2 guys on board that can draw a card on hit.
Yeah, right at this point, it's probably not important that he get Reese 1 turn earlier. It just fits so nicely into his resources at the moment to curve out. Let Kuzimo spend resources to spend cards to get his resources where he can actually do stuff. In the meantime, his Rock Elemental, his Eldritch Dreamer is inspired to draw 2 cards now.
That peak was pretty brutal. Pretty brutal. He's forced to pop the Storm Cloud here, just to try and get something to stop this onslaught. And he can block the Rock Elemental and destroy the Buccaneer, and that's pretty good, honestly. But the Dreamer still gets through and draws 2 cards.
And he did sacrifice a Storm Cloud for 1, and you want more value than that.
Yeah, Biddy Bolt there, probably the best thing he could have got. He does get to take a troop off the board.
The tense end of turn, end phase thought. But his opponent is disconnected. Well. So
I'm guessing it just stopped responding, and he saw in chat that he asked if it froze, realized that he needed to relog and jumped out. He'll probably be back.
Yep.
I hope.
Should not be any significant problem, but chat's like table flip rage quit. In round 2 up 1 game, yeah. That happens. So we've seen a lot of Armies of Myth, and we're getting a test server this next week. I hope the test server hits on Thursday, because the Thursday is when I'm back from LA for E3 and visiting Hex Entertainment. That's going to be fun. Going for Wednesday. And then at the end of July, I'll be seeing you and many others in Indianapolis for Hex Summer Camp.
Indie hype, sir. Indie hype.
Indie hype!
Indie hype. We see a lot of you guys in chat at Gen Con. If you are awesome. If you're not still awesome, you can probably find what we're doing on updates here, Reddit, forums, Twitter, wherever. Anyway, game continuing.
Full swing and a top deck counter magic, which is a pretty good top deck, honestly, considering what's about to come out. But really, this is a lot of extra cards. Draws 3 here. No, he's going to be drawing 2, because as I say, he will kill the Buccaneer, as I said before. Draws 2 from the Dreamer. Still pretty good, though. Do you keep the counter magic up here? I think so. I think so.
You don't need to do anything. You have exactly fatal damage on the board.
I mean, I might have tunneled the Reese here if I didn't just draw 2 verdicts, but the 2 verdicts mean that you can counter his counter magic if he tries to stop you from countering his Reese.
But it looks like that Reese may have been unprotected. Oh, never mind. But that is all Kuzimo can do. Got a nice long chain here. Verdict interrupting counter magic. Attempting to interrupt counter magic. But counter magic now resolving, interrupting Reese. Like Kuzimo asked Reese, and FlipeRon said nope. And Kuzimo said yup. But FlipeRon said nope.
Workable here just for the block, I suppose.
Orkerbot can only imagine what it could have been.
Ancestors chosen getting brave there. Doesn't want it to be a flawless victory.
Because that's exactly what matters. Oh, Azure Fate Sorceress.
Alternate art as a Fate Sorceress.
Even better. And so many cards.
Both resources this time, but there are a lot of things you can just add to the board here, and it's not like his opponent can even Growlk him. The only thing I could see at this point that would even stop him from dying here is, I guess, a Storm Call? Maybe a Wizard of the Silver Talon? I'm pretty sure he's not running either of those things.
An Extinction and not the shards he's running.
He'd have to get 2 blood shards this turn. That seems pretty easy, though. There we go. On to game 3, then.
We have a match.
So, let's see how things are shaping up. I wonder what Zabuli is running here. I guess we'll find out soon enough when the top 8 deck lists are posted. Zabuli definitely locked for top 8 at this point. Vermin definitely locked for top 8 at this point. Everyone else is still up in the air. Shinshai, No Nonsense, Entrath, Atir, Wastelands, and Coolja are all currently sat in the top 8 spot. A couple of names we recognize there, a couple of new ones though.
What time does the top 8 begin tomorrow?
10 a.m.
10 a.m. So you'll want to be in this exact channel to catch that action there.
So action.
Much constructed.
many plays.
Much Tetzot? I actually don't
Maybe.
know.
I hope so. I hope there are a bunch of Tetsuo decks in the top 8, because honestly, watching As a Fate inspire Tetsots has been the highlight of my day. I think it's awesome. When Set 2 came out, well, or even before Set 2 came out, people went nuts when they saw As a Fate Sorceress spoiled. Um, they understood how powerful that card was, and really what it did. And then it just hasn't been around the entire format. And it's just decided to show its face at the end. It's kind of strange, but kind of cool. Always been one of my favorite Set 2 cards. Just perhaps a little bit difficult to utilize. Tetzot is a pretty good way to do it, though. That's for sure.
A cool champion, a cool rare. And we had a lot of cards to spoil today, and you want more. I can't believe it. Look at all this. Anyway, this game is about to begin momentarily.
When you summon a Tetzot, it doesn't go on the chain, right?
The power goes on the chain, but the Tetzot never actually is on the chain itself.
So the power goes on the chain and you can respond to it.
Yes.
Is that what happens? Okay. That's interesting.
That is a lot of shards. Could even call that a flood of shards. Ah, 10 a.m. would be Pacific time. That matches up with the clock that has been on screen all day. So if you're local, you could use your local time and look at the time on screen. It is Pacific Daylight Time, and you can find out when it begins. It turns out if you know the start of the tournament was at 9 a.m. Pacific time today, 1 hour after the start of today's tournament will be the start of the top 8. Just follow FiveShards on Twitch. You'll get it. Ouch. But both players equally ouch, as both players mulligan to 5 cards.
Well, that's a good start to Game 3. At least they're on equal footing, I guess.
Alright, Kuzimo, turn 1, Sapphire, with 4 cards left in hand. This is exactly what Sapphire decks want, having not very many cards in hand. I'm being completely sarcastic here.
Two of these cards being Mastery of Time. Probably not the best thing.
Well, let's see whose non-ideal hand is more ideal. 2 resources from Kuzimo, but does not have a 2-drop. Possibly
No
has a
Cloud?
verdict. No Cloud, no Cerulean Miranite.
Ooh, that's pretty snazzy, but again, you know, not that snazzy when you definitely don't have the resources to play it.
The peak will help Kuzimo out. Although with two Sapphire, it's only between the top card and the card under it, but at least you get a choice.
Resource may be all it needs here. I mean, if he hits this 3rd shard and
he tunnels
looks
a
like
card.
he may have peaked for a Reese there. That was pretty lucky.
I would take a Reese if I saw it.
Well, who wouldn't? Especially in this situation. And he misses the drop. That is quite brutal. That might be all it takes to spiral out of control here.
Kuzimo drawing like a champ, having 4 shards now. But still only 3 cards in hand.
Okay, hits the drop 1 turn late, but hits it nonetheless. A little bit awkward when you're running a 6 charge power to be not getting many resources.
But if Fliperon can stave off this Reese and start to play those Azure Fates, there's some crazy things coming.
That's true. You can actually get an Azure Fate down next turn without too much worry, as long as he draws the shard here. If he doesn't, he's stuck not doing anything for 2 turns because he's got to hold the counter magic up next turn. Even if he draws the shard here, he's going to have to hold the interrupt up, even if it is likely that his opponent will be able to stop it. At least that way he can Buccaneer fairly safely after that. Okay. Judging by the fact there are no plays at all, and not even shard plays, like, he's got to be holding interrupts. At least a verdict. But making his opponent use 3 of his 4 resources here, even 2 of his 4 resources, is enough to make sure that the Buccaneer gets the Reese back into the hand. There's a counter magic. There you go.
But it's not just going to be...
power on as well.
There will be 2 random robots.
Let's hope they're small ones for CoachFliperon's sake.
That is an Armatron with no robot to buff, so could be worse.
Not too bad. Does get to 5 with that though.
Which means with 1 more resource, that Buccaneered Reese can be replayed. And then the end of turn, a spam bot definitely could have been worse.
Not the worst. Not the worst at all. Okay, let's see what he draws. Another shard is good. That puts him potentially on a pretty sweet little play next turn. See, this cannot be interrupted. Reese will go back. And Coach has basically just got to hope here that Kuzimo doesn't draw that 6th shard.
That moment when you look for that lens flare coming from your opponent's hand and it doesn't come.
There's a Buccaneer on the Buccaneer. That's actually pretty good for Coach here. I mean, he's actually using it as well, so that means that if the Reese does come back down, he's going to have a Buccaneer to send it right back. He will get to use the 2 robots again at that point, but at least the Reese is going to be gone. This isn't too bad. Hopefully, I mean, Coach is pretty much hoping for a shard here so he can get the Tetsot down.
He doesn't get it, but he's
He
just
does have
one
mastery
shard.
of time.
He's 1 shard short of a lot of cool things he could do.
He could mastery, and he could just take that extra turn to try and get the shard. Chooses not to.
He's not doing anything. I'm kind of curious. Is the potential for the blowout great enough to hold basically nothing except this time ripple?
Does seem that way, but he still hasn't drawn the shard, so he basically wasted his turn there.
He's likely going to have to time ripple something.
Doesn't seem to want to.
He's pointing at his opponent's hand. I think at least using those masteries, perhaps maybe this turn he's going to use it. Because I think what he might be going for, and he needs like 3 shards for this, is Azure Fate, Tetsot. Oh, they're quick! That's what he was waiting for. So with 1 charge, he can get a 2nd Azure Fate down if this one survives the turn. So this is a gambit. His
They
needs.
are quick. They are quick, but at the same time, it doesn't mean you have to wait for them, and I'm not sure waiting for them really was the best there.
And now he can Mastery of Time if he doesn't draw a shard to try to get the shard. But, again, he can't really protect his opponent if he happens to have an interrupt. So I think he's got to go for this Mastery, and if he doesn't have it, he's not dead, but he loses his Azure Fate.
Chances of verdicts are fairly high, I suppose.
Can also...
I mean, he could go for the Dreamer to try and pick up the shard off the draw there. Because obviously the Dreamer would deal direct damage. He would draw a card, he would have a 3/3 on the board, and then if he drew the shard, he would have enough for the Time Ripple as well. There we go. Let's see if this makes it through.
Interesting to note that the Buccaneers' cost increase also allows it to be inspired by Azure Fate Sorceress.
That's true. Very true.
Doesn't
pick up the shard. That's not ideal. He's still okay, but it's certainly not ideal for him.
You can see Fliperon going, "My shard, where are you?"
I think it's a fairly safe bet to say now that he doesn't have a counter magic, but he probably has Verdict. Having said that,
Oh.
that would be GG, and that is 2-1 to Kuzimo there, and knocking Coach down a considerable way in the standings.